Okay, this is The Grass is Greener on WXRW 104.1 FM in Milwaukee. I am the host of the program, Gary Grass. With me is my co-host, Babette Gruneau.
Dan Kovalik is a human rights and labor lawyer. He's a political analyst and an author. He is our guest this evening. He will be speaking on Gaza and lawfare, and I'll let him explain what lawfare is.
You know what lawfare is? I know what lawfare is.
Yeah, you do, but maybe some of our audience doesn't.
Okay.
So I'll let him explain that. And if we have a little extra time at the end, maybe we can mention a few things on Venezuela. So welcome, Dan Kovalik.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, it's good to hear your voice. I was worried that after having said you were in the room, we wouldn't be able to hear you because everything has been kind of really rough for the beginning here. But you wanted to come on the show. We wanted you to come on the show. We always like having you. But you particularly have a case that you are handling in Washington State right now, and that is, I think, very much worth discussing. So why don't you sort of just introduce what that's about?
Yes, so I'm representing the Palestine Chronicle and two of their principals in federal court in the state of Washington. There's several cases like it pending in the U.S., and they all look very similar. So the case was brought by three Israelis who were held hostage after October 7th, kidnapped on October 7th and held hostage for 200 plus days in Gaza. They ended up being rescued by the IDF in probably the most high-profile mission to rescue some of the hostages using that Biden port, if you remember that.
Oh yeah, the humanitarian aid port that never delivered any humanitarian aid.
Right, but did deliver troops to engage in this mission, which did free a few hostages, but in the process, the IDF murdered about 300 civilians.
Wow.
But in any case, what they're claiming is that the Palestine Chronicle, which is it's the name sounds, is an online news organization, obviously specializing on Palestine, that they had in their employ a journalist in Gaza named Abdallah Ajamal, who they claim held the plaintiffs captive for in their case, about 6 months or so. And they are alleging that the Palestine Chronicle and their two principals, by having him under their employ and allegedly paying him, which is they never did, and they didn't employ him either. They did publish some of his articles. But in any case, they allege that they paid him and that payment aided and abetted the hostage holding.
So this theory is similar to, someone comes and does something to me late at night, and I find out that they worked at a McDonald's. I get to sue the McDonald's Corporation for paying them and thus contributing to the crime?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously a real stretch. The only way you could claim that is if and what they claim here, is that McDonald's, in your hypothetical, that McDonald's knew that you were going out at night and doing these sorts of bad things, and that the money they were giving you helped you do that, okay? And that's the basis of the liability. Again, weak T, but still, that is the linkage and that's the claim. Or you can think of a lot of hypotheticals. I pay you to paint my house, and I do know that you're in the mob, say, for example. You're a mafia guy, and you go out and kill people And again, the claim would be that I know you were doing stuff and that you were somehow using the money to go out and kill people. Again, it's not strong, it's weak, but they alleged
Yeah.
enough to beat. We initially succeeded on our first motion to dismiss,
Mm-hmm.
but they amended their complaint to add much more allegations about alleged knowledge about Al Jamal's bad conduct and
Supposed
allegations
bad
about
conduct.
payments to him.
Okay.
Supposed bad
Al
conduct, right?
Jazeera, what's that?
Supposed bad conduct.
Supposed, yeah. Oh, and by the way, it's their word against no one because Al Jamal's dead. He was killed in that operation, as was his wife, as was his father. So there's no one to contradict some of what they're saying.
Oh, it sounds
How
like there's no one to
convenient.
support it either, right? I mean, and wouldn't they have the burden of proof, and they're trying to base it on hearsay of a dead person?
Well, it wouldn't be hearsay. I mean, they could have tried. The complaint did suggest they might base it on hearsay, but what they want to show, well, it's not hearsay to say that a guy did something bad to me, right? That's not based on what he said. It's because he did it, right?
Okay. I read the article that you sent me, and it sounded like they were also, using what he had said.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've backed off that now
Okay.
because I'll only say that because I deposed all three plaintiffs and they admitted they didn't hear anything. So that's good for us, right? No, I do think they were alleging that in the complaint, but they seem to have backed off that. Again, I don't think they have much evidence at all. But all this is about silencing journalists, right? The IDF is murdering journalists in record numbers in Gaza.
And they can't do the same to us here.
Well, not yet, thank goodness. But yeah, if they could, I'm sure they would. But so what they're doing is trying to impoverish the defendants by forcing them into, protracted litigation, and ruining their reputation, which it did. The Ramzy Baroud, who founded the Palestine Chronicles and is one of the lead defendants, he was doxxed, received multiple threats of murder. He actually, though he founded the Palestine Chronicle and gets paid a bit from the Palestine Chronicle, he gets paid $14,000 a year from the Palestine Chronicle, which is not enough to live on. He actually
No.
mostly lives off of freelance journalism work, and that is largely dried up due to this lawsuit. So it has really impacted his livelihood. In terms of the attorney's fees, because I've been the lawyer on the case, I've at least shielded them from the worst of that by charging bargain basement fees, to say the least, so as not to have them end up in the poorhouse. But, it's been successful in really, again, undermining his livelihood, his career, his reputation, of course, causing him incredible stress and worry, as anyone would go through in such circumstances. And as I said, there's several of these cases around the country. His daughter, Zarifa, who's an activist in her own right, she's been sued in two different forums for similar things. They tried to drag her into this case through a subpoena. I managed to prevent that. I filed a motion for protective order that was granted by the court. But in any case, yeah, they're just trying to ruin these people. And again, now that we've deposed them and we're almost done with the discovery, at least up to this moment, it seems like they have no evidence of anything. So hopefully we'll win short of trial even, but
Right. I mean, it's. I mean, there's supposed to be all these legal mechanisms that you can use. I mean, you move to dismiss, right? You move for summary judgment, right?
That's
You
the
know,
next step. Yeah, after discovery. Yes.
the so-called put up or shut up motion, where you try to show that are there any disputed facts to even go to trial that would be material here, and it's like. And you can't just say, well, we dispute it. You have to actually have some sort of evidence for it. And if you put up an affidavit and it's clearly a lie, they can reject that as a sham affidavit. So, there's a mechanism for kicking this out of court. It's just it takes a while to get to that point. And I don't know, how long has this case been going on already?
Since July of 2024. So,
Wow.
a year and in a few months. And certainly it'll easily in district court, even if we win the motion for summary judgment, it'll easily be in district court for a total of a year and a half. Then they can appeal.
Mm-hmm.
That's another year and a half. I mean, easily this case will go 3 years.
I remember when I was on this program, many years back when Alan Eisenberg was still alive, right? And he was a regular. He actually was on the show as a regular person, right? We sort of he got us the show and was on it with us every week for when we first started, and we were in. I was having a case in federal court at the time, and he was really it's like these federal courts, they'll get you for sanctions if everything you do isn't right, they'll knock you down, and you better have your stuff put together or they're going to sanction you. And we never got sanctioned. I don't know if he was in a different universe, but it's like, why wouldn't the other side in this case be subject to sanctions for bringing such a frivolous set of claims at the beginning with like no evidence?
Well, we're certainly looking at the possibility of sanctions. Obviously, our main goal right now is just to get our clients off the hook. But yeah, I mean, that is the goal, is to file for sanctions, and we may get them. I mean, again, in the best of circumstances. But I don't, do they care about that? I don't know. I don't know for sure. I think they have deep pockets. Interestingly, when I deposed them, I asked all the plaintiffs if they knew who was paying their legal fees, and they said no, just that they weren't.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So,
here's like an obscure legal concept of baratry. That's something I haven't heard in 20 years, but isn't there like a law, a rule about you're not supposed to recruit clients to be part of a case, and just that don't they have to come to you in some way? I mean, that's
yeah, well, and again, at least one of the plaintiffs admitted that they came to him.
mm-hmm.
And recruited him. Yeah, well, that's true, but all these things, the truth is the courts and the bar associations, they really don't like to go after lawyers. They don't like to discipline them or disbar them, and I mean,
it has to be pretty extreme. I mean, it's happened to a few people, right? A few famous people that they went after Clinton and Giuliani and some of these other people, and
Michael Cohen, I think, too, and who was Trump's attorney. It happens, but again, and also if they were recruited within Israel by an Israeli lawyer, what are they going to do? So these are tough things. I mean, yeah, theoretically, you shouldn't be able to bring a case like this. Theoretically, if you do, you should be sanctioned. But
and then there's reality.
Then there's reality, and I understand it too. Again, judges don't want to go down that road if they don't have to. The whole system works on kind of an honor system, and judges were lawyers too at one point. So in any case, we'll see. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, at least about getting it kicked out. Sanctions, yeah, maybe. I hope. But it's a nasty little case, and again, there's a bunch of them happening in the United States, and
Even if this one is kicked out, there has to be some fear among others who are reporting on Gaza, who are reporting on this whole situation, that they'll be the next one targeted, that they'll be the next one sued for having, supposed ties to somebody, or that they.
You dared employ someone who is Palestinian? Oh, now you're liable because they might, someone might accuse them of being a member of Hamas, and whether there's any merit to it or not, you'll still wind up in a lawsuit for years.
Yeah, well, and that's what we argued in our motions to dismiss. Yes, that it would have a chilling effect. It does have a chilling effect. And by the way, that is basically their argument. Again, when they deposed our people, the questions they asked made it clear that they, again, Ramzy Baroud, who's from Gaza, and he's from the same neighborhood as this Jamal, he's immediately suspect because he's from Gaza and because he's from the same neighborhood. And at one point they said, well, don't you, aren't you afraid to send money to Gaza, like to his family who's starving? Aren't you afraid to do that because, you can't guarantee it won't go to Hamas? And it's like, what's he supposed to do? He's from there. His family's from there. It's not his fault. Well, and I made the analogy, it's like arguing, are you afraid to send money to your family in Chicago? It might go to street gangs. I mean, it's silliness.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm from Chicago. It's just, underlying it is racism, really, obviously.
It sounds like it, yeah.
It's a crime that they're Palestinian and that they're from Gaza. But the good thing, again, when we did the motion for protective order for his daughter, Zarifa, they made very similar arguments about her, including, oh, but she's the daughter of this guy, And the judge says, well, it's not enough. I'm sorry. So I hope she gets it, that this guilt by association is not appropriate, But again, they believe it. I can tell when the lawyers, the way they, again, examine my people, that they're very fervent in their belief.
Yeah, they don't think any of this is crazy.
No, they live in their own, Zionist bubble.
Anyone who's Palestinian or has anything to do with Palestine is guilty just by association.
By association and by virtue of the fact that they're advocating on behalf of their people. Right. It's one thing you're from there, but my God, you actually defend those people. It really is something, And that argument, I think, worked for years and years. It doesn't anymore because people are seeing through that, thank goodness. But
I think in a sense, Trump has been sort of an unwitting ally in this because Trump has put out these like executive orders that try to take away free speech and try to make these kind of blanket things about anti-Semitism and whatnot, and so there's piling up precedent on all this stuff because some of it is so extreme and so ridiculous and it's easy to see through. And now you've got sort of that model of judges have seen how this stuff can get carried away into ridiculous areas, and I think that's probably an aid to you in a weird way.
I think that's an aid. I also think the passage of time has helped us, because I think more and more Israel's been exposed for how terrible they are in Gaza. I think if the motion to dismiss were filed now, we might have gotten a different result.
Just in a year.
Yeah. So, again, and It's an interesting case. I mean, but it shows, what you realize. If you're a criminal charge is brought against you, obviously that can still ruin your life, even if you're innocent, you're
Mm-hmm.
found innocent. But at least you can get a public defender, right? You don't have
Hmm.
to pay attorney's fees. Now, you're probably not going to get necessarily the best lawyers for free, but you still can get them. But if you're sued civilly, which this is a civil action, there's no public defenders for you.
Hmm.
Right.
You have to find someone. Yeah, you can find nice guys like myself, who are going to, uh, give you the solidarity rate and all that, which is good. But I mean, most people aren't going to find that, and they're going to have to pay through the nose. I actually talked to the lawyer for Al Jazeera in the similar case in Washington, D.C. I said, hey, I'm just curious, how much you charging them an hour? She said, $1,000.
Ooh,
And she's
yeah,
not the only lawyer on the case. Now, Al Jazeera can afford it.
yeah, yeah,
They get money from Qatar. They're
yeah.
probably paid
Yeah, I'm
in oil.
I'll write a fee
Yeah.
agreement that says that you pay me whatever you can afford, and if we win, then I get this many dollars an hour, whatever the maximum is that the lodestar rate is. So for civil rights, for however many years of experience, it might be around $1,000 an hour. Um, because it's a national market, and these lawyers are expensive, and that's just the way it is.
But can you imagine that? I mean, in this case already, I'm sure I've put in. I mean, I haven't tallied it all up, but easily 100 hours, probably more. But let's just say 100. I mean, if it's
Wow.
$1,000 an hour, that's $100,000. And again, I'm certain that they have more than one lawyer working on it for Al Jazeera. So I mean, you're talking
Yeah,
hundreds of thousands of dollars before you even get to a motion for summary judgment. If you get to trial, you're talking millions. You're talking
mm.
millions in attorney's fees, and you can just sink someone.
For a case that has like zero merit in the beginning,
Yeah,
just based on utter nonsense.
yeah. It's a real misuse of the court system.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's scary. It's a scary thing. And as you say, it has chilled people. I mean, the one thing is, in addition to all the other harms I mentioned that Ramzy went through, the Palestine Chronicle lost almost its entire board of directors, including some people with a lot of money, who helped the organization. They just fled
Oh,
once the
that's
lawsuit
sad.
happened.
yeah. I mean, one of the phrases that was used in the article that you sent was SLAP, SLAPP, which some people are familiar with the term. I mean, I am. I think Betsy is like sitting here like with a quizzical look on her face. Right, a strategic lawsuit against public participation.
Mm.
Right.
And there are anti-slap laws on the books because this became enough of a thing that legislators acted, and there are at least you can see people citing anti-slap laws to like shoot down defamation suits, for example, right? There's like a lot of legislation to keep people from filing slap defamation suits against you for like criticizing their product or whatever it is. But what was the actual? I mean, this was what? This was like, kidnapping, false imprisonment, that type of thing. What was the actual like tort that they used in the for this?
That's what they're claiming. Yeah. Yeah. And also that they were beaten and, yeah. So basically torture, kidnapping
Yeah.
under the Alien Tort Claims Act, by the way. I didn't mention what
Oh,
law
okay,
it's brought
okay,
under,
okay, okay. Yeah.
which I've used as a plaintiff's lawyer. This is the
Right,
first time
right.
I'm on the defense.
They
So,
they used it against Alejandro Gramajo, the general in Guatemala, for genocide, right? They
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
been used in very good, creative ways, but yeah, sometimes things come back to haunt you, and actually the Supreme Court with the conservative majorities has really whittled away at how the Alien Tort Claims Act can be used. And again, as a defense lawyer now, I'm like, oh, that's great, go for it. You know, it's very funny. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
so I don't know. You can see it both ways. Of course, you know, you want, you know, and that's again why the courts are loath to sanction and whatnot, because we
yeah.
want lawyers to be creative, and we
Right.
want, you know, because the good things can be done through the creative use of impact litigation
Yeah,
and all.
yeah. I mean, the other term that Betsy raised before was lawfare, which was also used in the article, and that's a term that gets thrown around a lot. And I'm surprised she doesn't know it because her pal Alexander Rakuris uses it all the time.
No,
Um,
I wasn't going to try to define it myself.
So this is when legal actions are used for political ends, right? Non-legal ends, right? It's not that you suffered an injury that needs to be redressed. It's that you want to remove Lula from office, right, or whatever. So you come up with some sort of lawsuit. There's all sorts of different things that you can use the law for, which are not the intended purpose of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned the anti-SLAPP litigation. That's on the state level. There is no federal anti-SLAPP. Now, it can be used if, well, I'm going to get too fancy here with legal terms, but it can be used if the case is brought in diversity, but not if it's brought in federal court under federal law jurisdiction, which the Alien Tort Claims Act is.
Right,
So
right.
we do not have,
28
we cannot
USC
avail
sections
ourselves.
1331 versus 1332, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we cannot avail ourselves of Washington's quite good anti-SLAPP law.
Right,
So
right.
there
So
you go. So yeah, it's anyway. I hope your audience is at least interested. It is fascinating for sure.
I mean, it's something that is being done by the other side to go after activists in order to, help continue to perpetuate the genocide. I mean, it's certainly worthy of discussion on that right. And I think there are probably people who listen to this show. I mean, at least some of our Palestinian friends, right, who are very familiar with Ramzy Baroud and and know the name and think, oh my God, they were going after him now. Or of course they knew they were going after him, right? Because they some people follow this stuff more closely than I do.
Yeah, well, and I would urge those people to go and make a donation, to the Palestine Chronicle, and maybe reach out to him, send him a nice note. I mean, it's important. He did just win a journalism award, the Serena Shim
Oh,
Award for
that's nice.
journalism, so that's nice. Ramsey, but he needs a lot of moral
Yeah, needs
support.
support, needs solidarity.
Yeah, so he's a good guy. He's a sweet guy. I mean, here's a guy who was born in a refugee camp in Gaza, and he made it to the U.S. He started, he could have gone into business and made money. Instead, he started a, modest uh, chronicle for Palestine, to advocate for Palestine, and he makes very little money doing it. I mean, he's a really amazing human being, and he's being punished for it. So,
Let me ask, and if it's something you don't feel you can answer, then don't. Obviously, has he moderated his stance on anything? Has he tamped down what he prints, what he says?
I don't think so. It's my observation that he has not,
Mm-hmm.
He lost his sister and his brother-in-law and many cousins in the genocide. And
Oh dear.
so he feels it, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think he can't moderate his views. I mean, it's part of who he is, and
Sure.
so to his credit, no, he hasn't. Um, he continues to press forward. He's worried about his kids again, especially his daughter
Of course.
Zarifa, because they definitely have her in their sight. But again, she's not backing down either. To both of their credit. But
That's
again,
good.
I think they've paid a huge psychological toll from it, and I know they have, and financial one. So that's what a hero is. You do what you need to do, despite the costs, and that's why people like that need to be supported.
Definitely.
And I have no doubt if they could put him in jail, they'd put him in jail. I mean, I think they would destroy him if they had the chance.
Well, I mean, is something like that on the horizon, or is this something that has been like thoroughly squelched? Because it's one of the things it was in that article was, okay, well, there's this whole kind of motley crew of really horrible, Zionist, agents that are always fabricating BS and putting the sights on journalists and doxing them and trying to defame them in order to make them into targets, and then they wind up getting killed, right? And one of the things that they pointed out is that within this whole constellation of law firms on the other side are people with connections in the Justice Department, right? And so,
yeah, one of their lead lawyers, actually, worked for the Justice Department.
So the question they had was, well, is this like something that is like designed to like try to get information? Is he going back to his old pals back at the Justice Department now to try to stir something up that some sort of frivolous criminal suit, some sort of like anti-terrorism kind of thing against him?
I think the answer is, I mean, most likely. I mean, I think that Ramsey has to take that into consideration, that may be what's happening here. I just think, yeah, you'd be foolish not to
But
see that.
But if they couldn't get past, I mean, I know this is all still future, but I mean, presumably, this case is shown how weak it is in discovery, right? And when you depose the other side and you request all their documents, and it shows up that they have nothing, and you're expecting that you'll have this case swiftly dispatched when it comes to summary judgment season, right? I mean, when you come back with a criminal case, you've got even a higher burden of proof. What are they going to do if they didn't have any evidence to even win on a civil case? They couldn't even get that to a jury. How are they gonna potentially prevail in a criminal case? Isn't this going to be just completely frivolous?
Well, yes. I mean, what you're saying is correct, and the hope is that, yeah, if we win this in the way that you're saying, that it would convince any prosecutor in the Justice Department, for example, that it was a losing proposition. The problem is, though, that you have, especially now under Trump, a very politicized Justice Department that may not care. That may be happy to take a case that doesn't ultimately succeed for the same reason these lawyers.
Yeah.
As a matter of kind of harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and instead of the traditional, you've got some guy who's very proud of his 98% win rate and doesn't want to spoil it. Now you've got these people that are showing up and just being berated by judges for the nonsense that they've submitted to the courts, and they're just happy to keep their jobs and keep doing that for Mr. Trump.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor almost. So, and look at what's happening with ICE and everything else. I mean, we don't live in a society with the rule of law. I mean, the things that are happening are unconscionable. So I think you have to be ready for anything, is the truth of it. I think if you speak out, you do so at your peril, for sure.
You actually sound like my friend who's a professor at Bolt Hall. So,
well, I just want to mention something. I was at a protest tonight. It was on Disarm Doko. It's Disarm Israel. It's a local company that does repairing.
Parts or repairs for some of the warplanes that are bombing Gaza.
Exactly. And there was, maybe 100 people protesting out there. And the police were out in force. And as we were assembling, heard some of the police discussing, oh, what should we do, And it's like, well, first get all their license plates. It's
like, I mean, sometimes they have drones overhead taking pictures.
That. So. Yeah, they were taking pictures. I haven't heard something like that since the Red Squad was active here in Milwaukee against what they saw as communists.
Assuming it's no longer active.
Yeah, we're in a new McCarthy period for certain, and yeah, the target of it isn't so much communists as it is certainly Palestine rights advocates, right. Immigration rights advocates, and even as a lawyer, I mean, I feel like, maybe they'll come after me at some point. You just don't know. But I don't really spend a lot of time worrying about it because, again, when you choose this life to be an activist and whatnot, you do so understanding there's risks. I mean, you don't want those risks to become a reality, but
Yeah. I mean, there's a danger in underestimating the risk, and then you wind up in real trouble.
Right.
But there's also a big danger in overestimating the risk. If everyone overestimates the risks, then they all comply and we give up all of our power, and we just ensure the worst possible outcome, right? So you should probably, on the whole, lean towards underestimating your risks so that you're being a little more bold and fighting a little harder.
I agree with that. I do, and I've always lived that way. And ultimately, you got to be true to yourself, and that's the only recipe I know for a meaningful life. And I mean, look at what these flotilla folks are doing and what they went through.
Really amazing.
Great people. Those are beautiful people. I sound like Donald Trump, and they're beautiful people.
Yeah, but yeah, well, it's fair. It's fair though. It's legit. Yeah,
but so that's who we have to encourage our kids to be. Not to shrink from our obligations.
Yeah, I mean, we were at a an event, sort of. It was a demonstration. I don't know whether it was a protest or more of just a celebration of the flotilla. It wasn't entirely negative because I mean there was this like we're celebrating one side and we're protesting the other side, right? Because you've got good and bad on display there. And I wish they had given a few more facts, because it was you did have some people talk about kidnapping.
A lot of loud chanting.
Yes, yeah, a lot of chanting, right? But it's like, I mean, one of the things that kind of struck me is like no one has mentioned the offense of piracy, right? Because it seems like I see a lot about them abducting people at sea, but it's like this is high seas piracy, right? This is like arr.
Really pirates.
They're boarding ships in international waters and seizing the passengers, and it's like, I mean,
yeah. And ironically, the Alien Tort Claims Act, which the plaintiffs are using in our case, it was mainly passed to deal with piracy.
Oh wow.
On the high seas. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's a serious issue, and it's not being discussed. Well, and you have the press is so bad, even Greta Thunberg was, a media darling for a long time. Now they vilify her for trying to bring infant formula to Gaza. It's an incredible thing.
I mean, there's like some very high profile people on that flotilla. I mean, you have activists, but you also have like several people who are like members of European Parliament from different countries that were all there. And I mean, you've got, I mean, the idea that you're gonna take, that Israel wants to have decent relations with the European Union, and the European Union loves Israel and wants to keep helping them, and yet their own legislatures are being abducted on the high seas and held, captive and like exposed to whatever conditions they're exposed to. I mean, they put water cannons on these boats, spraying skunk water at them, and at least one of the boats got all the way within sight of the shore into the territorial waters of Gaza, and were able to be seen by Gazans, from the shore. I mean, it's and one of the things that was pointed out is like previous flotillas, Israel has come and killed people that were on those boats, right?
Yeah, 10 people on one boat alone.
Yeah.
The Marvi Marmalade, is that what was
yeah,
it called?
I remember that.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean, but there were no real repercussions then, so
No.
So who knows what they'll do now, right? I mean, it's you just have this rogue entity that just does whatever it feels like anywhere in the world, right? It will launch attacks on Qatar, on Iran, on Lebanon, on Palestine, on Syria. It's just like one country after another country after another country after another country, and in international waters, and abduct the nationals of 50 different countries all at once, right? And it's like,
Yeah, including a French member of parliament.
Yeah.
And again, Greta Thunberg. I mean, it's incredible. No, well, what the Israelis are doing every day is intentionally showing how far they can go. They want to prove to the world that there are no limits to what they can do or who they can do it to, and unfortunately, the world has not called their bluff. They continue to allow them to do it, and that's the shameful part. You even had at first the Italian and Spanish sent some naval ships to accompany the flotilla, and then they backed out. Just left them there. I mean,
that was shameful, actually.
The
when they
cowardice.
backed out, yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, it was nice for them to send them in the first place, but I mean, if you're not going to commit, then what? I mean, what was the point of that, right?
And they said, "Oh, you should turn back." Like what? I mean, why? You knew what the deal was. It's incredible. I mean, the West has just debased itself. It goes back to that Gandhi quote when he was asked, "What do you think of Western civilization?"
I think it would be a good idea.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really. I mean, they started out this whole thing by setting a record for how many UN workers they could kill, and then they've just gone on and just like completely. I mean, people were saying. I mean, I think we were saying on this show, a year and a half ago. I mean, it's October 7th. We might have been saying this 2 years ago, right when it very, very, very much started. That one of the benefits for as seen by some people was wrecking international law, right? That some people like touted that as like, oh, this is one of the good benefits that we can get out of this. We can wreck international law. We don't have to worry about it anymore because it will just render it a nullity.
Yeah, well, and the U.S. has been the U.S. and Israel in particular have been actively trying to do that for a long time, and they've done a good job. They what's left of the international law structure, very little of any consequence.
That is very sad.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
many people worked so hard over decades to get some of these laws and to get countries to abide by them, and then to have just poof, it all wiped away.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, but that's sort of like emblematic of everything in this, right? Think of all the labor that it took for people, whatever it was 1,000 years ago, to build St. Porphyrius Church in Gaza.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it is in a lot of labor taken to build and create and make universities and art and knowledge, and then all it takes is like thousands and thousands of dumb bombs just to destroy it all. And there are forces in this world, there are masters of creation, and there are forces that are masters of destruction. And guess which side we're on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we've given no. The West doesn't create anymore; it destroys. And look at the U.S. I mean, look at our infrastructure, how terrible it is. Again, nothing's created here; it's all destruction all the time. It's a really, nihilistic project now.
Yeah, I mean,
That
it's we send people off to China to like beg China to like develop less quickly and make less great stuff, and like your cities are too beautiful and makes us look bad. Can you please make your cities
speed
uglier,
trains are
please?
too fast. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please hold it back. It's like why would we do that? And it's like, but a war would wind up being incredibly destructive for the people that have all the beautiful things, and that's.
Let me get another issue in here.
All
You
right.
mentioned war and possible another war, and also destruction on the high seas. So I'm going to ask what your thoughts are on the bombing of the boats in the Caribbean off of Venezuela,
Uh-huh.
and a possible war with Venezuela.
yeah. I mean, it's just incomprehensible. I mean, it's these are acts of murder. Okay, I mean, we know at least in one case it was a family that was killed, and including kids.
Wow.
We don't know who these people are who are being killed. You can't just say, oh, they're drug dealers, and you incinerate them. I mean, no one has to take your word for that. There's something called due process. If you think they're really trafficking in drugs, they should be arrested and tried and convicted. But even in that case, there's no death penalty for drug trafficking. That's not a capital crime.
Yeah.
So this is just murder, pure and simple, and another form of just totally disregarding international law.
Yeah.
And again, that it's not that there isn't more outrage about it is really
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, Amnesty International would say extrajudicial execution because people are being killed deliberately
what it is.
without any
Yeah.
sort of judicial process. It's just outside of the legal process. They're just murdering people. And it's they say this for death squads, and it's basically, and you've got these people in the U.S. government that are just chortling about what a great use of the military this is. It's like, hey, we've had this ability to kill people all along, and we haven't been murdering people the way we could have been. What's been wrong with us all this time? And it's like, because normal, sane, civilized people don't just murder people on a whim. Probably, I'm guessing.
Right.
And yeah, where is the? I mean, I guess part of it is just that we have an administration that just tops itself so frequently and just is so insane in so many areas that it's like, okay, well, this isn't really news anymore, right? We knew they were nuts. We knew they were, homicidal maniacs and psychopaths. It's like, so is this really news? I mean, and it should be. I mean, but it's
of course.
But
Well, it wasn't news under Obama. I mean, let's face it. Obama liked his special target wasn't so much boats, but it was wedding parties. He loved to
Yes.
murder entire wedding parties. So
that's all
sadly,
fair. That's fair. That's fair. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got quite a bloody trail behind him. But and he was cool about it, right?
And
he
he
was,
still is. He's Mr. Cool, and he's considered a great cool statesman, and he goes on podcasts, and the guy was a murderer. I always say, in terms of like Obama and Trump, it's really only the difference between Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy, the clown killer,
Yes.
one's kind of nice, handsome looking. The other guy looks like a slob, but they're both murderers,
Yeah, I mean,
It's a matter of style.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Obama is more the Mephistopheles, a gentleman in a nice suit who like talks very elegantly and then tells you exactly how he's going to murder these people and what the process is going to be. And then you've got Trump is more like Ed Gein, where they discover like all the human remains in the basement under the floorboards.
Yeah, I mean, so and that's the problem is that no one told Obama no, and no one told Biden no when he was supporting the genocide. And again, you still have Kamala Harris going around touting her stupid book, admitting that her one of the reasons she lost is that she didn't oppose the genocide. And
Oh, gee.
oh, okay, well, then maybe you should have. But she's
Yeah.
still not opposing it even now. But she gets on nice talk shows and all. Again, we live in a society where we're just inert to these sorts of things.
Well,
And that's the trouble.
Sometimes it's hard to get even the peace community to come out and I'm not going to mention names, but it's hard to get the peace community to condemn some of this stuff or to really protest. I mean, if it wasn't for the active Palestinian community here in Milwaukee, I don't think we'd have the types of protests we've been having.
Well, I mean, we certainly would have them on that scale, but we do have some nice socialist groups that also come out and do these things as well, right?
Yeah.
But the kind of like mainline peace organization here, again, not naming names, but they're
hey, they know who they are.
I mean, they do some stuff. They debate it forever. They don't know really what they want to do. They're very confused about how to go about any of these things. They don't just have it. They don't have this like deep feeling in their soul like this is horrible. We need to do something now to stop it. I mean, I don't know why that.
I mean, we're
feeling
2 years
isn't there.
Genocide. If you haven't come up with a rationale to do it by now, when are you? I mean,
that is the question.
Is the truth of it?
We've got one guy who I really like, right? He's good on many things. He's been a guest on this show, he's very eager to give an award to our congressperson here who has like voted yes for money to the genocide over and over again. I mean, it's like, it's like just the level of demand is so low, right? And the level of fight is just not where it should be. I mean, this is like horrible beyond belief, and
yes.
It's like we're just too accommodated to it and too, complacent, and I mean, there are forces here that are like very, very adamant and are willing to do a lot more, but just too many people are just. I mean, like me, I'm too focused on my daily life and the things that I need to get done and not doing nearly enough for this cause. I'm glad I at least have the radio show so I can feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah, well, we all need to do what we can, for sure. But I mean, there should be much more happening.
If there's something you can recommend people could do, now's the time to mention it.
Well, I certainly think there should be more people on the streets protesting this. I think if people, that's a small thing people can do. I think if you can go on these flotillas, which continue to go, do that. That's a much bigger ask. But I mean, that's, there are people from the U.S. doing that. If you really want to get involved, certainly support UNRWA, the a UN agency for the Palestinian refugees, and support other groups trying to alleviate hunger in Gaza. I mean, again, that's a minimal thing people should be doing. And keep speaking out. I mean, we need people to not get tired of this issue, because it's, unfortunately, I fear, going to go on for some time. I don't see this peace deal as happening, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And I think we're probably going to have wars with
Yeah,
Iran and
yeah.
Venezuela. So buckle up.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, no, things are looking pretty grim, and we just have to be here and you know, pick a side and be part of the right side and work on it. So,
And that's what life's about. I mean,
yeah.
again, it's
Yeah.
the curse. Some say Irish curse, others say Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. We live in interesting times.
Okay. Well,
For better and worse.
we're about to be off
So,
the air, so thank you very much, Dan Kovalik.
okay.